Before we move forward, though, I want to give you a gift. I'm giving away a completely free 3-day pass to Poker Coaching Premium. Hello, everyone. I'm Jonathan Little for PokerNews.com. Make sure you check out Poker News for whatever you need pertaining to poker news. Here we have a hand from the $25,000 buy-in Super High Roller Tournament from South America put on by Party Poker. Party Poker has a great YouTube channel with all sorts of content, so make sure you check that out at youtube.com/partypokerlive. Let's get right to this hand. It's exciting.
An amateur recreational player out here having a ball and a biscuit, living the dream.
Nothing better than eating a biscuit and having a dream, huh? In this hand, João Simao, very, very strong player from Brazil who has about $3 million in live tournament earnings. He raises it up from under the gun with 8-7 suited, which is perfectly fine in standard, playing about 80 or so big blinds deep. Sergio, under the gun +1, decides to call with the Queen-9 offsuit. Perhaps he is the one with a dream and a biscuit. This is a little bit too loose, way too splashy. I would never recommend calling random junky high card hands, but he does. And then it folds around to Niall Farrell in the big blind, also a very, very strong player. He has about $6 million in live tournament earnings, and he is the #1 all-time money leader from Scotland. He calls with the Ace of Diamonds, Jack of Hearts. Seems perfectly fine and reasonable. If his hand was a little bit better, he could 3-bet. If it was a little bit worse, he could 3-bet, but I think calling against under the gun in this spot is fine. So we're going to see the flop 3 ways.
Going to try and take home a little 25K high roller glory.
Comes Neil with the ace-jack in the big blind.
Might I mention
flop,
2
top
L's.
pair. The open-ended straight draw for Sergio. The flush draw and the gut shot for João.
Everybody has a little something on the Jack of Diamonds, 10 of Clubs, 3 of Diamonds board. Neil in the big blind has top pair, backdoor flush draw, pretty good hand. João has a flush draw and a gut shot straight draw, and Sergio has an open-ended straight draw. They all have basically the nuts. This is a spot where Neil's going to check everything on the flop because he has to presume João or Sergio is going to bet the flop pretty frequently. One of the two of them will, and that's going to allow Neil to either call or raise depending on how it goes. In João's shoes, with this weak draw, I definitely think betting is fine when you're playing deep stacked. If we were playing shallower stacked, like let's say we were playing 30 big blinds deep, João has to be careful that he does not bet 2 or 3 or 4 big blinds in this scenario and then face a check raise all in, because then he actually probably needs to fold this, pretty good draw, but certainly non-premium draw, and that would be a disaster. That said, when we're playing very deep stacked, João can bet and then just call any raise and try to make a straight or a flush, right? So this is a spot where I definitely think betting the 8-7 suited is reasonable, and that is what he does. He bets 40,000 into the 110,000 pot. I may have gone a little bit bigger here, given we are playing multi-way, meaning I'm usually not going to be betting all that frequently. And when I am betting, it's going to be a bit more of a polarized range. That said, I have no problem with this bet.
A little bit for everybody here.
Oh, this could escalate in a hurry.
Who is this commentator? It's not a little bit for everybody. They all have the nuts. All right. So João bets 40,000. Sergio, with the open-ended straight draw, I think just has a pretty reasonable call. He definitely does not want to raise and get re-raised. And he's getting a pretty good price to just call and try to make a straight, right? So this is a scenario you don't really want to mess up when you're in position. Just call, try to get there.
João bets 40K. Sergio did make the call.
Sergio does call.
Really for Neil,
Now, this ace-jack for Neil is a neat spot because when you face the small bet and the call, you can start to presume that the small betting range from João is going to be slightly wider than perhaps a bigger bet size. Because, like I said, the bigger bet size usually indicates a more polarized range of premium hands and draws, whereas a small bet size often indicates more of just a range bet. Now, you're not going to be betting your entire range multi-way on this type of board all that often, but, maybe João is betting decently wide, especially if it's under the gun ranges on the tighter side. So if he does think he's against a pretty wide betting range from João, I don't mind putting in the raise with the ace-jack, because you have to presume Sergio is going to raise most of his best hands on the flop as well. So Sergio probably doesn't have a premium hand. João has his, a lot of his range. So ace-jack is actually probably good. The problem with raising the ace-jack in this scenario is that if you do face a re-raise, or even if you get called, you cannot really know if you're in great shape. Yes, by check raising, you make hands with equity fold, But at the same time, you do end up getting in pretty nasty spots. That said, if you just check call, you're also going to be in nasty spots because you know you're going to see the turn against two other opponents and you're out of position and you don't really know what cards you have to worry about on the turn. Plus, you could still just be beat, right? So this is a pretty rough spot for the ace-jack offsuit. And I think you go either way between calling or raising, but I think facing a small bet and a call, you probably want to go ahead and put in the raise.
I am calling here and seeing what develops on the turn. We have the ace of diamonds in our hand as backup, so we can eliminate either one of these opponents from having that sort of holding.
He's going to look to raise now, makes it 150K.
Wow, top pair, top kicker, perhaps having the ace of diamonds, maybe we can sort of thin the herd. But
all right, so he does put in the check raise to 150K, and now I want you to consider what you would do in João's spots. Now remember, I know you're watching this video. You know what everybody has. When you're playing in João's spot, though, you do not know what you're against, okay? Talking to all the YouTube commenters out there who says, you're against the ace-jack, why would you do blank? Remember, he doesn't know he's against the ace-jack. Come on, everybody. In the scenario, with 8-7 suited, 8-7 of diamonds on the jack of diamonds, 10 of clubs, 3 of diamonds board, what would you do after you bet the flop, get called, and face a pretty big check raise? I want you to pause the video and write in the comment below what you would do. Would you fold because you're worried about being against just a really strong range of better hands and draws? Would you call because you're getting okay pot odds? Would you re-raise small to, let's say, 370,000? Or would you rip it all in? Pause the video and write it in the comment section below. All right, did you do it? I sure hope you did. Going through this process will help you actively learn, which will go a long way to helping you improve your skills. Because if you get it right, good, you got it right. And if you got it wrong, you committed to your wrong answer. Now, we're going to discuss why your wrong answer is wrong. Before we move forward, though, I want to give you a gift. I'm giving away a completely free 3-day pass to Poker Coaching Premium. You can get full access to Poker Coaching Premium and everything I have to offer there for the low price of $0. No credit card is required. All you have to do is go over to, what's the URL? pokercoaching.com/free pass. The free pass will be available from February 26th to February 28th. All you have to do is go to pokercoaching.com/free pass and you have full access to the site and everything it has to offer. So make sure you take advantage of that. In this situation, in João's shoes, I think really your only option is to call. Because if you raise small or if you go all in, when Neil does call you, it's going to be with all of his good hands, right? So his good hands are going to be, well, in reality, probably ace-jack and better, right? You're not in great shape against that. And every once in a while, Neil's going to have a better draw, like king, queen of diamonds, ace, X of diamonds, right? Stuff like this that may decide to hero call it off, putting you on some combinations of draws like king, queen, and queen, nine suited and whatnot. So if you're going to be getting called somewhat often, you don't really just want to rip it all in with your marginal draws, right? So I think the only play is to just call, make full use of your position, make full use of your good pot odds, and don't mess it up. The only way this really goes horribly wrong is if you have to get all your money in with a marginal draw against a very strong range. So I like calling. And then once João calls, I think Sergio has a call as well. For the same reasons, right? He's closing the action. He has a draw to a very strong hand. I know it's not to the nuts sometimes, but it's a very strong hand, and you don't want to mess that up either.
Jeff, you can see that this is not going to work. Has to fade quite a number of turn cards. You can see the percentages there. Even when you do have top pair, top kicker with the ace of diamonds, you're only 38%.
To be fair, only 38% is really not so bad because you're putting in 33% of the money, so you're actually ahead, right? That said, this is kind of a dream scenario where you're not against a better hand. When you're against a better hand, then your equity is not good at all.
My friend is having his bachelor party in Prague.
And it is on João here.
I would never travel for something so small.
João makes the call.
I'm sure he was considering
Players
ripping it all in
along
there.
For the ride here. Now getting a great price if you're Sergio.
Yeah, 448K
okay.
in the middle, 110K more to you.
Why not?
Even we can do that math.
Not playing as much as
Better than 4-1.
I think it's pretty easy now for Neil to range assess, right? It looks like Sergio has maybe queen 9, king queen. We'll give him.
so that's like 8 weekends already.
Okay, so commentator here says, I think it's easy for Neil to range assess his opponents. I never feel that way whenever I'm playing $25,000 buy-in tournaments against good players or even recreational players who are willing to get in there and mix it up. Because right here, what does João's range look like? I mean, think about it, right? Is he really going to be jamming all that many hands or re-raising all that many hands? I would have to think no. So I would not be shocked in this scenario if João has overpairs, aces, kings, queens, jacks for slow play, 10 for slow play, right? He could have ace-jack. He could have maybe queen-jack of clubs type hands, right? He could also have king-queen. He could have queen-9 suited. He could have any reasonable flush draw, right? I realize Neil has the ace of diamonds, so there aren't all that many, but he could still have some of them. So, like, I have no clue what João has besides either a reasonable made hand or a reasonable draw. And then, for Sergio, I would also have no clue what he has. If he was sitting here with ace-jack, you think he's going to fold, call the flop bet and then fold to the flop check raise plus call? Probably not. I do agree that Sergio probably does not have all that many nut hands, right? Like at this point, Sergio is kind of capped when it comes to the made hands. But I don't think we know if he has a made hand or a draw. So I am never really thinking, all right, I know specifically what type of hand my opponent has. I mean, certainly there are lots of draws Sergio could have. But I mean, I don't know who Sergio is. He could be sitting here with like 10-9 and think it's a hand he needs to stick around with. So you don't really know what cards you have to fade. That said, some cards are clearly like way better than others, right? Like a 4 of hearts is basically a blank, so you don't really need to worry about the 4 of hearts all that much, whereas the queen of diamonds is terrible, right? It's pretty obvious.
And now, can we ever put João on a similar holding? Clearly a draw, maybe a flush draw. Best card in the deck, really.
Absolutely, another 3.
Is the 3 the best card in the deck? I'm not sure the 3 is the best card in the deck here, because now, if Neil was against an overpair, he's in terrible shape. Also, he could randomly be against a hand like ace-3 of hearts that decided to get splashy. Now, look, I don't think ace-3 of hearts is getting all that splashy all that often, but you never know. So this is a scenario where, yeah, Neil probably has the best hand, but I think if a lot of money goes in the pot, it's actually not all that great for him. This is a pretty terrible spot for Neil, because notice, stacks are about 820K, with about 560K in the pot. So he has, call it 1.5 times pot, João does. Man, what are you even supposed to do here in Neil's shoes? Normally, when you check raise a flop, you're not getting 2 callers. I guess you're probably just supposed to bet and put your money in, just like bet small on the turn, and then don't fold against either player. Sure feels gross, though. You could also check and see what develops. Like, let's say you check and João bets and Sergio calls. Maybe you could fold. But it's a pretty bad spot, right? Maybe the play is to check and then just call it off if someone bets, or check shove all in. Really, I don't know what the right play is. You could go all sorts of directions in this scenario, in his shoes. I have no shoes on right now. We're making a YouTube video, so I don't have to wear pants or shoes. This is a spot where, man, what would I do if I had to do something? It's probably a check and see what develops.
Just don't think he's going to give João or Sergio the right price to call.
The problem, by the way, here is that if you bet small on the turn, you're giving the draws good odds to call again, which is not really what you want. They're not really making an error. But if you start betting big, like let's say 400K or even all in, now you'll make the draws fold. But when you're against a better hand, the better hands always call you, and you're always in terrible shape. So that's the real dilemma when it comes to betting.
With any sort of drawing hand. Oh my goodness, he's going to check.
He does go for the check. He is not clairvoyant.
This is interesting, Jeff. I fully anticipated a bet for all those reasons we've stated.
All right, so now over to João. What do you do with the 8-7 suited? Well, you would love to have some hands to bet here, right? Like, let's say João does have overpairs. You would love to bet your overpairs. The only fear with betting an overpair is that you're going to run into Neil's nuts, pocket jacks, pocket tens, right? But you basically beat everything else. I think it's probably pretty nice to go for a big bet with an overpair. He only has 1.5 pot size bets left. It's probably a spot where you just want to rip it in with overpairs. And if you get to shove your overpairs, you also get to shove with at least some draws. And I think this is a pretty good one to do it with because it has no showdown value. But it has pretty good equity even when it does get called, unless you're against a full house, of course. But full house is probably not going to be a ton of your opponent's range, right? Although, of course, Neil could just have a full house, but there's only, 7 combinations of it within reason. So, man, oh man. What a dicey hand, huh? We should pause the video after every single betting round here and ask you what these people would do. I think this is a spot where you want to bet this hand. It completely lacks showdown value, but it has pretty decent equity. And the options are to either bet small on the turn, planning to fold if you get shoved, and then also bluff on most rivers. Or the plan is to just like make a giant bet here on the turn and be happy playing for all the money. I think the play is just go for the giant bet, and I think that's probably what you want to do with the overpairs as well. So I think I'd go all in, as weird as this sounds. I think we can count on Sergio folding almost every time. Neil's range is going to contain a few nut hands, but I do think we'll be able to even get some hands like Ace-Jack and King-Jack to consider folding out. And I do think Ace-Jack and King-Jack will strongly consider folding out in this scenario. So I like the shove. Let's see what he does.
We're going to see very likely a free card on the river. Oh my gosh.
Instead,
Did he do it?
João ripped it in on the turn.
Overbet shove with 8 high.
I love it.
Sergio now, he can't call with this, right? Just an open-ender. The board has paired.
He is our wild card.
What is going on this hand?
Easy fold here, of course, with the queen 9. Wouldn't that be fun if he calls and wins with queen high? Do it, Sergio. Get him. All right, he doesn't do it.
Does eventually fling his cards into.
Now back to Neil. I already said that I think Zhao's range in this spot is probably going to be a lot of overpairs and a few draws. Neil's big problem here, this is a big problem, is that he has this ace of diamonds in his hand. I think without the ace of diamonds, you pretty happily call it off. But with the ace of diamonds, you make it way less likely that João has ace king of diamonds, ace queen of diamonds, ace 5 of diamonds, right? All of these are hands that may conceivably elect to use an all-in shove in this scenario, especially the weak ace X, because they lose at showdown, right? So when you have that card in your hand, now the only diamonds that João realistically has are king queen, king 10, which probably doesn't need to shove, king 9, if he even raises it, probably does, but you never know. Maybe like king 8, queen 9, which has loads of equity as well. 9-8, 8-7, right? There's really only 4, 5, 6, 8 combinations of these flush draws, plus all the overpairs. So against all the overpairs, you're in pretty terrible shape. And the flush draws usually have some sort of, well, they do have they do all have some gut shot to go with them. So this is a pretty terrible spot for Neil. If you have like ace jack of hearts here, I think it is just a reluctant call off, because then you don't block any of the flush draws, the ace high flush draws. But with this ace of diamonds in your hand, I think it's just a fold. How gross. Do you think Neil thought when he check raised this flop, he's just going to check fold on a 3 turn? Probably not, yet here we are.
The muck.
I am very surprised that we have not called by now. What value hands are we afraid of at the moment, Jeff? I don't think very many. And my goodness, did he fold?
He did fold.
Wow.
He did fold. He is not clairvoyant. Believe it or not, you don't know what cards your opponents have. You all can berate Neil in the chat below, though, because he folded to 8 high. Why in the world would you fold if you knew your opponent had 8 high? Doesn't make any sense. To help make some sense of this game, make sure you check out the free 3-day pass. It's taking place from February 26th to 28th at pokercoaching.com/free pass. It costs you a whopping $0 to get in there. So get in there, study and learn, and maybe we'll teach you to fold the ace jack on the jack 10 3-3 board. Or maybe we won't. Go there and find out. Hope you all have a great day. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed this video, do me a quick favor and click the like and subscribe buttons below. Also, there's a little notification bell to make sure that you don't ever miss a new video. Good luck in your games. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you next time. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want more strategy lessons, pre-flop charts, and interactive quizzes, make sure you get your free membership to pokercoaching.com right now at pokercoaching.com/free. I'll talk to you next time.